Welcome to Sovereign Alchemy, the podcast for the woman who is ready to begin manifesting a life full of abundance, all while she enjoys the ride. Hello, and welcome. It's time for you to step into your power, trust divine timing, and truly become the CEO of your dream life. I'm your host, Mary Jo Rember, a life and mindset coach, certified in somatic healing and human design. My mission is to help women recognize their worth, lead with confidence, manifest wealth, and unlock their fullest potential. Each week, I'll be here to share money mindset tools, leadership tips, human design and astrology wisdom, and manifestation strategies with the intent to blend the mystical with the material so that you can create success that feels just as good as it looks. This is your space for wealth expansion, personal power, self-trust, and aligned leadership. If you're ready to build confidence, grow your wealth, and create a life rooted in abundance and clarity, you're in the right place. Grab your cup of coffee and let's dive in. Hello. Welcome. I hope we are all doing good. I have thoroughly enjoyed my long weekend. If you're listening to this kind of in real time, it was recently a holiday, President's Day. It was nice just to have an extra day off of work. And I really just enjoyed getting outside, going for a hike, spending some time with family. Hopefully you got some of that time in too. Okay, let's dive in. Today I want to talk about how to stop worrying and really to truly start living a life that you enjoy. So first of all, I want to make note of a quote that I recently heard. We were watching The Fantastical Beasts, and his name is Newt Scamander in the show. And in the show, he was talking about his personal theory. His personal theory is that worrying only makes you suffer twice. And my husband kind of looked at me because I was kind of going through something in my life that I was worrying about. And he just like nudged me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's such a great quote. That's such like a good mantra to really live by, to start asking yourself, like, is this worry really helping fix the problem? And most of the time, if you ask yourself that question, it's going to be no. The answer to it is going to be no, I'm actually not helping with the problem, right? If I watch the news and there's bad things happening in the world and I just sit and worry about those bad things, is that worrying actually solving the problem? Is it actually contributing to the greater good? The answer is more than likely going to be no, right? So what we really want to do, and why this is so important, is understanding that worrying is really holding you back from being able to enjoy the present moment. Worrying is holding you back from being able to come up with new solutions to actually impact the greater good, right? If you're sitting there worrying about money, you don't have enough, there's not enough in your bank account, and you're worrying all the time about that, is that actually helping grow your bank account? No, it's not, right? Worrying does not grow your bank account. Taking action, showing up, doing the work, that's what grows your bank account. So, okay, so the second thing I really want to talk about here and why this is so important is sometimes we just have no control over the outcome, right? But we do have agency. We have agency. So I want to share kind of a little bit of a story with you, or just kind of a good scenario of something that can help you kind of understand like the difference between having control over the decision and not having control. Sometimes we do things in life that we're not going to have control over the outcome. For example, I recently applied for a new job and I was worried about whether or not I was going to get the job. Right? I applied for the job. I got the interview. After the interview was over, I sat and worried about all the things I should have said that would have made them pick me. And this is kind of why my husband was nudging me, like, worrying only makes you suffer twice. And it did. I suffered twice because I literally worried about whether or not I was going to get it. And then when I didn't get it, I suffered because it sucked, right? So understanding that you're going to have agency in this. But first of all, understanding that, like, right, so you apply for a job, you have the interview, or maybe you have a business, right? You reach out to a potential client, you do the consultation call, and you have two options. They're gonna choose to sign up, or they're not gonna choose to sign up, right? You're either gonna get the job or you're not gonna get the job. There's two options here. Maybe there's a third where they call you back and say, hey, we want to hire you for this other position. I don't know. But ultimately, you don't have control over their decision, right? So this is where the agency comes in. Say you don't get the job, similar to what happened to me. What are you going to do about it now? Now what, right? My very wise friend and mentor, Ashley Lund, always says, so what? Now what? And that is such a good mantra to live by. It's this learning how to accept where we are and what is important. In this moment, I can sit and worry, or I can ask myself, all right, so what? Now what? I'm going to let myself, be sad for a minute because we need to honor our emotions because that's important. But then I'm going to kick my ass into gear and I'm going to get up and I'm going to go at it again and again and again and again until I get the result that I'm looking for. Trusting and knowing that the universe is already working in the background to rearrange reality to fit exactly what I decided a couple months ago when I said, I no longer want to work here. I want to choose something different, right? The universe is literally like rearranging that. I've just have outgrown the job. I'm ready for something different. I made the decision that I'm ready to look for something new. And now it's time, instead of worrying, to just trust that the universe is doing its job. And that if I enjoy the process, enjoy the moment, enjoy my life, that I will have the energy to apply for the right job as soon as it comes along. I've already gone in and done the things to make sure that Indeed is notifying me when there's positions that kind of are in the similar field. Like, I've already done all the back end work. I've updated my resume. I've done all of the things that I need to do. Now I just get to enjoy my life. And when the right one comes up, apply, right? Instead of sitting and worrying, I get to enjoy my life. I get to have fun. Like, why sit and worry about something and then worry about it again when I don't get it? It doesn't sound relaxing at all. It kind of is like, what is even the point, right? Okay, so let's dive into how to stop worrying. And really this entire episode was kind of triggered by two things. It was kind of this aha moment after I got off the phone with my mama. And she said to me, she was telling me about a couple things. We have a couple family members who have recently had surgery and a couple things. And she was like, I'm worrying about them. Like, you know me, I'm just a worrier. I'm a worrier. That's just the kind of person I am. And if you understand identity work, right here and right now, you are commanding and telling the universe. And of course, I didn't have this conversation with her because that's not the space we were in. Maybe one day I'll get to have that open conversation. But how you stop worrying is you stop identifying with it. Stop choosing to identify with it. How you feel and who you are two different things. I'll say that again. How you feel and who you are two different things. You are not a worrier. You are feeling worry. Once you separate those two things, you get to make space for the person of who you already are. Okay? So the biggest shift here is you feel worry, but you are not actually worry. It's not your identity. Worrying is not your identity. It's a feeling that we feel in the body. It is not an identity. When you choose to identify with it, you will. And if you've worked with me before, if you've listened to past podcasts, if you're in my programs, you know that we all have a reticular activating system. And it will literally filter what we believe and what we intend. And if what you believe is that you are a worrier, it will find all the evidence in the world to filter in the information, because that's its job. The reticular activating system, I'm going to say RAS for short because it's a mouthful, will literally find evidence and bring that into your brain to show you, okay, here's another reason why you should believe that you are a warrior. Here's another reason why you should worry. Here's this, here's that, here's this. When you stop identifying with a warrior, your brain is going to stop filtering in data and evidence and reasons why you should worry. It is so important to just pay attention to everything you say after I am. And I don't want you to like shame yourself here. If you are doing that, that's awareness is the first step. Once you're aware of it, then you can shift it. I promise you this, if you shame yourself, it's going to make it so much harder to shift than if you open yourself up to compassion and love for the fact that that's just something you have heard probably from people around you saying that over and over and over again. I used to call myself the same thing. I used to tell my husband all the time, I'm just the kind of person who worries. Well, guess what? I was always finding reasons to worry because that's the way the brain works. The RAS, it knows that there's constant data all around us and it needs to filter in a certain amount, because if not, then we would get overwhelmed and we wouldn't be able to function. So it's going to filter in the things that are important. Those things are based off of a single blueprint that deals with your beliefs and your identity, which are typically your beliefs, right? Like who you identify with, and your strong intentions, what you intend to filter in through the RAS, what you intend. Okay, so even if you believe that you are a warrior and you're working to now shift that into no longer being the warrior, now you're the kind of person that enjoys life, you flow, you go with the flow, whatever you want to believe instead of believing that you're a warrior, right? Even if your brain is fighting against that, if you intend very strongly to become and be the kind of person who's enjoying life, it will start to filter in evidence to show you that it's possible. So then you can start to gather that evidence, collect it into a file, and start to then say, okay, this other side of the brain that believes it's not possible, here's all the evidence to back it up that this belief that you have is actually not something that you can prove in a court of law. Here's why. This is why I'm going to win this fight. This is why you can't close the case here, because all of this other evidence. So, how you stop worrying is you stop identifying with it. You shift your identity by understanding the shadow side to it. You shift your identity by understanding why you don't want to worry, by understanding whether or not it's actually helpful. You shift this identity by understanding how it's actually hurting you and making it worse. You shift your identity by understanding who you really are. You're the kind of person who came into this human experience to enjoy and have fun. And if you're constantly worrying, then that is blocking the space and energy for you to enjoy life, right? And then just having that compelling reason why. All of those are good, compelling reasons, but also understanding that, you know, for me, it's always like, do I want to set this example for the next generation? That's an always 100% such a good, compelling reason for me to step into something different. Do I want my son to see me worrying and then him take on worrying? No, I don't want him to suffer like I do. So how do I shift that? Well, I set the example, right? And that's actually part of my human design is I have that 6 line. I set the example. Okay. Some of you also like you know, maybe you don't have the 6 line in your human design. Trust me, if you're going to teach, right? If you have the 5 line because you're a teacher, you don't want to be teaching if you're not also doing. right? Part of being a teacher is also setting that example. And my guess is throughout your chart, you have a 6 somewhere. Maybe that being a different planet or whatever. Anyways, those are a couple other notes that I had, is just understanding that shadow side. What is this actually like? How is this actually like hurting you by worrying? Like, once you understand that, you can help your brain get on board with the fact that like, this isn't safe for me to sit and worry. It's actually making this worse. This isn't a safe thing to do, right? And then also, like, we'll talk more about nervous system regulation in a minute. If you're trying to shift the identity, that nervous system regulation will help you so much. Okay, so the next part is detaching from other people's worrying. So it's important for you to see what's not yours and then cut ties with it. Again, I'm going to give an example of my parents. I love them to pieces. I promise you that. I love them to pieces. But my parents, they like to worry. I have chosen that that's not my path, that that's not who I want to be. I don't want to be the kind of person that spends time worrying. I have chosen a different pathway. But sometimes I can be around them and they can worry about something, worry about what's going on in the world and how, things are changing. We're not like, there's crazy things going on. They watch the news a lot. They worry about that. They bring that into the conversation that I'm having with them. Right? And especially because in human design, I have that open identity center, I can easily take that on, right? Take it on and amplify it. Experience it and amplify it. And so here's where I get to cut ties with that identity that's not mine, right? See what's not yours and cut ties with it. Another example, I'm much more of like when it comes to, health, well-being, I'm much more of like a natural, I prefer like the natural way of healing and that kind of stuff. No, not 100%, right? I take my ADHD meds, so clearly not 100%. I'm kind of in the middle here. And, when it comes to taking care of my son, when it comes to taking care of myself, when maybe I'm having a fever or something like that, I'm not immediately going to go take ibuprofen or something that will like bring that fever down, because I truly believe that, if my son, and currently right now he's not feeling very well, I want him to sleep. I want him to drink lots of water. And if I just keep filling him full of ibuprofen and medicine and stuff like that, all it's doing is it's 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 making him feel more comfortable versus actually healing him. I truly believe that. And so, I have my mom on the other end, like calling me, worrying that I haven't given him medicine, right? And then I think, oh, shoot, like, am I doing the right thing? Here's where you get to cut ties. Here's where you get to learn to trust yourself. And that can be a little bit challenging, right? This is where you get to like go to your doctor, especially if it's this kind of stuff, and see what is best, but also learning how to trust yourself. And if you're familiar with your human design authority, this is something that you really want to start filtering things through. My entire life, when my parents, especially when Bud was little, they would worry about him when he's sick, and they'd be like, you need to hurry and take him to the doctor. And they'd be worrying and worrying. And I'd be like, no, I don't, we're not going to do that, And then I would internalize that, make that mean that I'm not a good mom. But had I known my authority in human design, I would have just been like, trusting myself, putting it through my emotions, because I'm an emotional authority, letting that sacral gut reaction come up, wash through my emotions, and then respond, right? That's what I would have done through that whole time. I didn't know how to do that because no one taught me human design before, right? So now that I do know how to do it, that's how you detach. You decide to put it through your own authority. And by the way, like if you don't know your authority, or maybe you want to dive deeper into your authority, I offer a human design reading where we can really dive into your soul strategy and how you can like start to align with what lights you up, what is meant for you, so that you're no longer trying to create success from this place of like all of the shoulds, but starting to create success from a place of this is what lights me up. And if I actually tune in to my soul, it's going to guide me in the right direction. I'm going to end up having more of that internal success where I actually feel happy. It feels good inside just as much as it looks good on paper. So if you're curious, I'll leave the link in the show notes and you can book that human design reading. Okay, so ultimately, detaching from other people's worrying. Important. Okay, so then the next thing, worrying is probably a habit. So now it's important that you shift that habit. One of the things that has always helped me with creating new habits is replacing it with something healthy, replacing it with something that's important to me. Now, I'm not talking about going and like, oh, I don't want to worry, so I'm just going to go scrub my house and avoid the worry. I want you to feel your emotions first, too, right? Because worrying is an emotion that needs to be felt and processed. This is why I got my certification in somatic healing, because I recognized that one of the things that I wasn't able to really help my clients do is be able to feel it in their body and then process it so that they're not just like letting that emotion sit and stir and do nothing, right? We really want to move that out of our body. So that's why the somatic healing was so important for me, because I could see that was like the missing piece in a lot of the transformations that I was going through with other coaches. Like they didn't know how to teach that, or they weren't showing me how to actually move the emotion through my body. It was just like in theory, right? So got my certification in that so that I could learn how to, one, move the emotion out of my body, but also help my clients do it. This is so important. I want, like, highly emphasize that it is important for you to feel the feeling. If you're just avoiding it, it's going to stay there. So when I say replace the habit of worrying, I'm not telling you to avoid it. Okay? Very clear. I'm not telling you to avoid it here. Please don't go and avoid it. What I mean is replace it with things like learning how to feel your emotions, right? Learning how to regulate your nervous system. Maybe even going for a walk to let that emotion process and move, right? Getting that bilateral stimulation in. Doing things like taking action to help reduce things that you don't want to create, right? One of my favorite tools is a tool that I learned when it comes to a fear. And you have, like, if you have a fear, like meeting it head on, okay, instead of avoiding it, like we're actually going to meet it head on. And I'm going to write down all the things that I'm scared of about this specific thing, right? Like if I'm afraid to publish this podcast, what am I afraid of? So maybe the thing that I'm afraid of when it comes to worrying, if I let go and detach from worrying, I'm afraid that things are going to fall apart. I'm afraid that X, Y, and Z. Well, then you go ahead and you say, okay, well, I'm afraid of things falling apart. And you take that and it's like, what am I afraid of there? I'm afraid that these things will happen. And then you take each one of those things that you're scared of and you create an action plan. You create an action plan for each one of those fears, each one of those failures, the thing that you're scared of, so that you don't have to walk through life carrying the weight of those fears. Same thing can happen with worrying here. So, and you can absolutely take that habit of just sitting there and worrying and letting it stew, and instead put an action plan to it, right? Taking back agency, taking back your personal power. And instead of letting worry run your life, right? You run your life. You become the sovereign CEO of your dream life. Okay. Next thing. Okay, so then the last part here is, how do we add more joy into your life? And honestly, the simple answer here is you clear space by allowing yourself to feel the worry and then releasing it, right? Well, once you let go of consistently worrying, you're going to have so much more time to have fun and enjoy life. So much more time to have fun and enjoy life. And then the next part of this is Kind of something we already talked about, right? That acceptance. The thing about life is that the current circumstance that you're in, like, you have no control over this exact moment and being able to change it. You can change the future, but you can't change the past, and you can't change this that's happening in this exact moment, right? The only thing that we have control over is what's going to happen in the future, right? It's back to that agency, acceptance for what is right now. And again, back to what Ashley says, so what? Now what? Right? So here's where we are. Here, we didn't get the job. So what? Now what? I'm going to feel the emotion. I'm going to process it. And then I'm going to keep going. That's what. And oh my gosh, the confidence that grows when you are able to accept what is and continue to keep going. Like, dang, like in my mind, I'm like, damn, I'm a resilient person. These kind of things just don't get me down because I'm not the kind of person that lets one single thing ruin the trajectory of the future. Like, so what? Now what? I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to spend time with my son. I'm going to record a podcast. I'm going to get back into my business a little bit more. I'm going to apply for the right job when it comes up. So what? Now what? I become more resilient because I failed, because I didn't get the job. Now I get to evaluate what's aligned, what isn't aligned, what am I going to do differently next time I go into an interview? So what? Now what? I only grow. I only grow from here. And that's the agency. That's the personal power. That's like you stepping into confidence like no other. And when you start to do that and you do it consistently over and over and over again, that rewires in your brain that you're the kind of person who's confident. The kind of person who's confident is enjoying life, having fun. They don't have enough time to worry because they are out living their best damn life. Kind of a cool thing to think about, huh? So that's what I want to leave you with. So what? Now what? It's kind of a cool motto, kind of a cool mantra to take on. So what? Now what? Okay, that's what I have for you, beautiful human beings today. I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in. If this podcast helped in any way, shape, or form, please leave a comment if you're on Spotify or YouTube. Let me know what helped the most or what piece of this resonated the most for you. If you are on Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review. It would mean the world to me because when you rate it and you go ahead and say like 5-star and you're like, oh my gosh, this podcast helped me. Here's, it inspired me to do X, Y, and Z. And you leave that for somebody else to see, they're going to be like, okay, well, I want to give this a try. And then their life gets to change too. So please leave a rating or review or leave a comment to let others know how it's helped change your life so that they can start getting on the path of self-growth and all of the fun things, right? That's the journey we're on. Okay, I love you with my whole heart and soul. I hope you have a beautiful day.